figure out how it's put together, read the liner notes or try to even find an article online of how they constructed the music. So that part of my brain is always working.
Things aren't looking good for Jon Batiste. Despite Grammy wins, unforgettable performances, and a respected career, recent developments have raised questions about what's happening behind the scenes. His career and personal life now appear to be facing unexpected challenges. Could these setbacks change everything he worked so hard to build? In this video, we take a closer look at the latest developments, what they could mean for the star, and why fans are growing increasingly concerned about his future. Jon Batiste cancels shows as personal matters take priority. Jon Batiste has suddenly canceled several upcoming shows across New York, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, saying he needs to step away to deal with personal matters. The Grammy-winning musician shared the news through the social media accounts of the venues, leaving fans wondering what was happening behind the scenes. Batiste apologized for canceling the dates and assured fans that refunds would be available through their original points of purchase. But the timing has drawn attention because his wife, journalist Suleika Jawir, continues to face a difficult battle with leukemia. Jawad's illness has already changed their lives in major ways. After years of treatment, she relapsed in 2024 and has since spoken openly about the exhausting reality of living with the disease. From hospital appointments to infusions and overwhelming fatigue, her days can quickly disappear. Batiste has also made it clear that he intends to stand beside her. In a 2025 interview, he described her treatment as an ongoing journey and emphasized that he remains there through the good days and the difficult ones. Even while canceling performances, Batiste pointed toward the future, mentioning his new albums, Monk Meditations and Monk Movements. But for now, it seems his priorities have shifted, and with more questions surrounding his personal life, fans are left wondering what comes next. But what is the love story between Jon Batiste and his wife? Keep watching to find out. The love story behind Jon Batiste's biggest personal challenge. Jon Batiste and Suleika Jawad's relationship did not begin with some instant Hollywood-style romance. In fact, when they first met as teenagers at band camp in Saratoga Springs, there was no crush at all. Batiste was 14, Jawad was 13, and according to Batiste, he was simply a late bloomer. Jawad even thought he was a little strange because her attempts to start a conversation went nowhere. Years later, however, everything changed. The two crossed paths again when Jawad saw Batiste on a New York City subway. He was wearing headphones, humming to himself, rocking around, and pretending to play an imaginary piano. While other passengers stared at him, Jawad immediately recognized the boy she had met years earlier. She turned to her friend and blurted out, "That's the man I'm going to marry someday." At the time, she had no idea how important that prediction would become. Both eventually attended Juilliard, although they followed different paths. Jawad played double bass in a pre-college program before later earning a degree in Near Eastern Studies from Princeton, while Batiste focused on jazz. Their friendship slowly developed into something much deeper as they entered their 20s. But before they became a couple, Batiste was already there during one of the hardest moments of Jawad's life. In 2011, at just 22 years old, Jawad was diagnosed with leukemia. The aspiring foreign correspondent began documenting her experience through her New York Times column, Life Interrupted. Her illness quickly became a major part of her life, but Batiste responded in a way that reflected who he had always been. When he learned that Jawad was sick, he brought his band to the hospital and performed for her and her family. At that point, Jawad had just learned that chemotherapy was not working and that an experimental clinical trial was her remaining option. Then Batiste showed up. The performance was not simply a private gesture for Jawad. He played for the entire cancer ward. For him, music was the one thing he knew how to give when someone was going through something painful. Years later, Jawad remembered that moment as proof of something important about Batiste. He was someone who showed up when things became difficult. And, more importantly, someone who kept showing up. When they eventually began dating in their mid-20s, Jawad described the relationship as a beautiful and unexpected period of her life. She was fascinated by Batiste and admitted that he was unlike anyone she had ever met. During their first official week together, Batiste sat her down in a park and asked a surprisingly serious question. What were her intentions? For Jawad, the conversation was unforgettable. For Batiste, it felt like a major turning point, and apparently, he was already thinking about the future. When Jawad later revealed that they had married, she explained that Batiste had first raised the subject of marriage during that very first week of dating. By then, they had already spent years getting to know one another, so their decision was anything but sudden. Then came another devastating turn. Jawad was diagnosed with cancer again. Batiste proposed after they received the news, though he had already planned to. Their intimate wedding included bread ties as rings, but the joy was quickly followed by another challenge. The next day, Jawad entered the hospital for a bone marrow transplant. She later said their love and happiness helped them endure those frightening days together. After Jawad eventually learned she was in remission, she spoke about living differently. She wanted to approach each day with wonder, curiosity, and gratitude. But the story did not end there. In August 2024, Jawad learned that her cancer had returned. Once again, their lives became filled with treatments, appointments, fatigue, and uncertainty. In a recent post, she described how entire days could disappear into medical appointments, infusions, exhaustion, and the endless work involved in managing a serious illness. Through it all, Batiste has continued to stand beside her. He has also emphasized that illness should not become the only thing defining their lives. There has to be room for music, happiness, ordinary moments, and the life they are still trying to enjoy together. That may help explain why his recent decision to cancel several performances feels so significant. Batiste did not simply say he was taking time off. He said he was dealing with personal circumstances, while the woman he has stood beside through some of the hardest moments of her life continues treatment. Their story has already been tested in ways most couples could never imagine. Yet Batiste has repeatedly described their commitment as something that must evolve with whatever reality they face. And right now, that reality appears to be asking him to step away from the stage and be there where he may be needed most. Before love changed his life, where did Jon Batiste's journey begin? Stay tuned to find out. From New Orleans roots to a global music career. Long before Jon Batiste became a Grammy-winning star, his life was shaped by music, family, and the rich culture of New Orleans. Born in Metairie and raised in Kenner, Louisiana, Batiste grew up surrounded by musicians. He came from the well-known Batiste family, a musical dynasty that included members of New Orleans brass bands. By the time he was just 8 years old, he was already performing percussion and drums with his family's band, the Batiste Brothers Band. At 11, his mother encouraged him to make a major change. He put down the drums and began learning piano. Every Saturday for 7 years, he studied classical piano with local teacher Shirley Herstein. But Batiste did not limit himself to traditional lessons. He also taught himself by transcribing music from video games, including Street Fighter Alpha, Final Fantasy VII, and Sonic the Hedgehog. Those unusual influences helped shape the musician he would eventually become. His talent was obvious early. At just 17, Batiste released his first album, Times in New Orleans. He attended St. Augustine High School and the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, where he studied alongside future stars such as Trombone Shorty. After graduating in 2004, he moved on to the prestigious Juilliard School in New York. There, he earned both a Bachelor of Music and a Master of Music in Jazz Studies. But Batiste was already building a career while he was still a student. During his years at Juilliard, he released Live in New York at the Rubin Museum of Art. By 2006, he had performed across the United States and internationally in places including South Africa, London, Lisbon, Spain, and Paris. In 2007, at only 20 years old, he made his debut at the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam, where he created and performed his own show. His ambitions went far beyond simply performing on stage. Batiste conducted music clinics, classes, and workshops in schools and underserved communities in the Netherlands. He was later invited to Carnegie Hall, where he created another show featuring 6 young musicians from the Netherlands. The performance ended with a piece Batiste composed for choir, jazz musicians, and orchestral instruments. As the years passed, his career continued to expand. He released projects such as Social Music, which spent more than a month at the top of the Billboard and iTunes jazz charts, followed by The Late Show EP with Stay Human and Christmas with Jon Batiste. His work eventually earned major recognition, including a Grammy nomination in 2019 for his version of St. James' Infirmary Blues. Then came his 2018 solo album, Hollywood Africans, released through Verve Records. Batiste also became known for performances that reached far beyond the jazz world. He performed alongside Gary Clark Jr. during a tribute to Chuck Berry and Fats Domino at the 60th Grammy Awards. He appeared at the Kennedy Center Honors, performed the national anthem at the 2017 NBA All-Star Game, and played during the opening night of the U.S. Open. He also helped curate major events, including the Global Citizen Advocacy Concert and the Louis Armstrong Wonderful World Festival. His talents eventually carried over into television and film. Batiste appeared as himself on HBO's Trem and acted in Spike Lee's Red Hook Summer, where he also composed and performed Hammond B3 organ music for the film. He later contributed music to other projects, including documentaries and short films. But one of the most important parts of his journey began back in New York. In 2005, Batiste started performing regularly with fellow Juilliard musicians Phil Keane and Joe Saylor. Later, Eddie Barbash and Ibanda Ruhumbika joined them, and the group became known as Stay Human. The name reflected Batiste's belief that real human interaction through live music could bring people together in a world increasingly dominated by technology. That idea became the heart of the group's identity. Stay Human performed spontaneous shows on New York streets, which Batiste called Love Riots. In 2011, the band took that concept even further by recording My NY entirely on New York City subway trains. Batiste wanted to find a way to connect with ordinary people, and music became his answer. The band eventually performed at major public events, including the 2017 March for Science rally in Washington, D.C. They also appeared on The Colbert Report in 2014 to perform Express Yourself. Along the way, Batiste shared stages with major artists, including Wynton Marsalis. Every step of that journey helped build the career Batiste has today. From a child playing drums in his family's band, to a young pianist studying at Juilliard, and eventually an internationally recognized musician, his rise was anything but accidental. He spent decades creating, performing, teaching, and finding new ways to bring people together through music. And that history makes his current situation even more significant. Batiste has built a career around being on stage, connecting with audiences, and constantly moving forward. So when an artist with that kind of history suddenly starts canceling performances because of personal circumstances, people naturally begin asking questions. What is happening behind the scenes? And how much could these personal challenges affect the future of a career he spent his entire life building? We can't tell. How did a young New Orleans musician become a national star? Keep watching to find out. The rise that made Jon Batiste a household name. By 2015, Jon Batiste had reached a turning point in his career. On June 4th of that year, it was announced that Batiste and Stay Human would become the house band for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. When the CBS show premiered that September, Batiste suddenly had a much bigger platform. Night after night, he performed alongside some of the biggest names in music, including Billy Joel, Will Smith, Wynton Marsalis, John Legend, Grace VanderWaal, and Nas. The position made Batiste familiar to millions of viewers, but he was never interested in staying in one place for too long. In August 2022, Stephen Colbert announced that Batiste would leave The Late Show to pursue personal and professional interests. Even after stepping away, he continued making occasional appearances, including a return for the program's final episode in May 2026. Around the same time, Batiste was also showing that his music had a purpose beyond entertainment. During the 2020 Juneteenth celebrations in Brooklyn, he performed on the steps of the Brooklyn Public Library as protests over racial injustice spread across the country. For Batiste, music had always been connected to community, healing, and expressing emotions that people sometimes struggle to put into words. He saw music as something capable of carrying messages and bringing attention to issues that mattered. His career soon reached another level when he helped compose the score for Pixar's Soul, alongside Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. The work earned the trio an Academy Award for Best Original Score and a Golden Globe, adding Hollywood recognition to Batiste's already growing list of achievements. Then came We Are, released in March 2021. Batiste described the album as a culmination of his life up to that point, and one of the clearest representations of who he was as an artist. The project would become one of the biggest successes of his career. At the 64th Grammy Awards, Batiste received an astonishing 11 nominations, 8 connected to We Are and 3 for Soul. He walked away with 5 wins, including the biggest prize of the night, Album of the Year. That victory placed him among an elite group of artists and confirmed that he was no longer simply the musician from The Late Show. He had become a major force in his own right. Batiste continued expanding his creative world. In September 2022, he conducted the premiere of American Symphony at Carnegie Hall. The performance was deeply personal, combining his artistic vision with a story that would soon become central to his life. That story was captured in the 2023 documentary American Symphony. Directed by Matthew Heineman and executive produced by Barack and Michelle Obama, the film followed Batiste as he worked on his first symphony while his wife, Suleika Jawad, faced the return of her leukemia. For audiences, it offered a rare look at what was happening behind the success and the awards. But even with those personal challenges, Batiste continued creating. In 2023, he released World Music Radio, a concept album featuring artists such as Lana Del Rey, Lil Wayne, New Jeans, and J.I.D. In 2024, he launched his Uneasy Tour, marking his first major tour as a headlining act. He later performed a series of intimate solo shows called Streams Jon Batiste at the Piano, where he improvised performances in a loose stream of consciousness style. His list of major appearances kept growing. He performed at the National Book Awards in 2024 and sang the national anthem at Super Bowl 59 in February 2025, with actress Stephanie Nogueras providing the performance in American Sign Language. Then came Big Money, released in August 2025. The album moved across blues, R&B, and classic rock, featuring collaborations with artists including Andra Day, No ID, and Randy Newman. In 2026, it won the Grammy for Best Americana Album, giving Batiste another major achievement. And he wasn't slowing down. In May 2026, Batiste announced 3 new additions to his Batiste Piano series, Black Mozart, Monk Meditations, and Monk Movements, with releases planned for the summer. On paper, everything seemed to be going exactly right. The awards kept coming, the music kept evolving, and Batiste continued finding new ways to reach audiences. But there was another side to this remarkable rise. While his professional world continued moving forward, his personal life was becoming increasingly difficult. And that contrast may be the key to understanding why his recent decision to cancel shows matters so much. But behind the fame and awards, what cause has always mattered most? Let's find out. The cause Jon Batiste has never walked away from. Jon Batiste's life has always been connected to more than music. He was born into a family with a history of standing against racial injustice. His grandfather, David Gautier, was president of the Louisiana Postal Workers Union and took part in the 1968 Memphis sanitation workers' strike, which pushed for better wages and safer working conditions. That family history helped shape Batiste's own views. He has publicly supported civil rights and participated in demonstrations connected to the Black Lives Matter movement. After George Floyd's assassination in 2020, Batiste organized peaceful protests in New York City against police brutality. His activism also appears in his music. Through his song, We Are, he supported the Equal Justice Initiative, founded by attorney Brian Stevenson. Batiste has also supported organizations including the Innocence Project, the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, and the Legacy Museum. For Batiste, music has never been just entertainment. It has always been a way to speak, connect, and stand up for what he believes is right. What are your thoughts about Jon Batiste and how things might be looking for him? Let us know in the comments section below. In the end, Jon Batiste's canceled shows reveal a difficult chapter behind his success. As he stands beside his wife through her health battle, fans can only hope brighter days lie ahead. Like, subscribe, and join us for more stories.